Hey everybody, it's John Michael. Welcome to Module 8 in the Postmodern Esotericism course. Today we're going to be talking about postmodern esotericism and metaphysics. This is the second to the last module for this course. And I just, as a side note, want to mention to y'all that this is going to be the format that I start doing the rest of my courses with, so that you actually get some supporting graphics in the background rather than doing live presentations. But we will be doing our last class of this course live, because that'll be your opportunity to ask questions, to comment, to share a little bit about what some of your insights have been through the entire period of these last 8 modules. And then to sort of wrap up the course and lead us into part 2 of this course, which we'll present as sort of as a separate course, but it's an extension of what we're doing now. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm pretty excited about this opportunity. And I just realized I have to make me a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so a little bit about this module and what we're going to be covering. Within our module, we're going to begin to explore ways in which someone could take the information that we've shared over the Stregoneria 101 course, the rebooted course, the Advanced Practice and Grimoire Studies course, and make them your own. What does it mean to take this information that you've been learning over the last year or 2 years or 3 years and bring it into a postmodern ethos? So this is a part of the overall structure of the classes that I'm really excited about, because this is the place where you get to actually create new magic, where you actually get to create the equivalent for you and me of what our grandparents passed down to some of us. So we'll start out with some basic definitions. When we talk about postmodern esotericism, we're talking about a wide, broad range of spiritual and philosophical traditions that look at the nature of reality, the nature of consciousness, and the human experience beyond the ordinary. Now, we talk about this a lot in the Advanced Practice course, so that would be a place to go if you want to refresh on some of those concepts, like the nature of reality and consciousness, the human experience beyond the ordinary, the extraordinary moments that we experience in our worldview. And then hand in hand with that is metaphysics, which is a philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, including the relationship between mind and matter, time and space, causality, zero-point energy, and the supreme, thought with a capital T, that source energy. So when we look at postmodern esotericism and we look at everything that has contributed to postmodern esotericism, there are like 4 primary ways that I would say that it expresses in the 21st century. It expresses it for some people as perennialism, which is a belief in a universal, unchanging truth that lies at the root of all religions. So those folks who feel like there's a little piece of truth in Buddhism and in Sikh Dharma and in Jain and Christianity and Islam and all of these other religions, when they say there's a little bit of truth about, that's how we get to understand, quote unquote, God, that's a perennialist approach. Many scholars believe that Rabbi Jesus and Buddha were perennialists. Then another way that postmodern esotericism expresses itself is through holism. And that's what I refer to in all of our courses as essential unity. The view that the universe is interconnected, that all things are ultimately one, that we are all just source expressing itself, and that we're the same stuff as stardust and the same stuff as one another. And that's why our magic works. Then there's transpersonalism, which says that there's an existence of states of consciousness that transcend the self. So when we think of transpersonalism, we think of sort of a postmodern version of seeing the self with a small s versus the self with a large s. These are intersectional practices. And so when you believe that you are just an expression of source, then that means that your truest nature, your highest nature, is source. So it's very closely connected to holism or essential unity. And then there's chaos theory, which we talk about again in the advanced practice course, which says that the essence of magical practice and esotericism is that your perceptions, that yours and my way of seeing the world or the cosmos is conditioned by our beliefs and by our fears and by our past experiences, and that the world as we perceive it can be changed by recognizing this and then shifting our beliefs to be more in alignment with our desired outcomes. So that's a very much an oversimplification, but those I would say are the four main branches of esotericism that we see in the present day. So in the present day, we also see Hermeticism as one of the ways that those philosophies express themselves. And the reason I separated this out is that I believe that in the present day, intersectionality is a key concept. So Hermeticism is as you know from the advanced course and from this course, is a tradition based on the legendary teachings of Hermes Trismegistus. And I just slaughtered that. It's Trismegistus. Anyway, it is Hermes is another word for Thoth, the Egyptian god, and so the corpus that we talk about in the modern world in the 19th century and the 20th century became the early 20th century volume called the Kabbalion, and that's Hermeticism. Inner alchemy, as many of you are familiar with, because it's the name that I gave to the spiritual pursuit of transformation through shifting the energy around circumstances and beliefs and fears and conditions, people and places and events. That's sort of based on the foundation of the Afro-Sicilian worldview and its esotericism. And then, of course, there's folk magic, which is a spiritual reclamation, taking back our power from the patriarchal society using cultural motifs. And folk magic is usually rooted in a religious or ethnic or combination of both traditions. And so we see brujeria, we see candomblé, we see Catholic folk magic, we see Italian folk magic, and all of these come under that. Now, if you've been paying attention to these courses over the last several years, you noticed, I'm sure, that these are very, as I said, very intersectional. And so the idea in this last module is not to separate things out, not to try and tease things into separate camps and draw lines in the sand. It's to give you an opportunity to understand the things that contribute to the magical worldview that you presently hold right now. So I want to talk a little bit about the sort of the relationship between metaphysics and esotericism. The esoteric traditions look at questions like what's the nature of consciousness? What's the relationship between mind and matter? What's the ultimate reality of the universe, and what is our relationship to it? So it looks at relationships. And that's the esoteric piece. And the metaphysical piece is understanding how it works. So the metaphysical piece is looking at the laws of the cosmos. And that includes things like idealism, believing that reality is ultimately mental or spiritual in nature, that all things are thought or originate in thought. Dualism, which some people embrace, and they think that the reality is composed of substance, mind, and matter, or mind and matter as the two substances, I should say. And then there's non-dualism, which is also known as Advaita Vedanta. And non-dualism or non-duality is the idea that existence is one whole interconnected rather than many separate things, essential unity. That when we see what appears to be a distinction between, for example, you and me, or myself and the other, that's an illusion, because we are just expressions of that same energy that can neither be created nor destroyed. And so we're looking at the laws of the universe. If energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then all beings who've ever lived must continue to exist. And non-dualism says that they continue to exist because they're all made of the same stuff, and that stuff we refer to as source, but can be referred to by many different names. Now, the challenge that I want you to keep in mind as you wrap up this course, the reason that part one of this course was focused on the topics that we picked was because esoteric traditions are often fraught with difficulty understanding, categorizing, defining the practices that make up esotericism, because they're often syncretic. They're often overlapping with others or drawing from or borrowing from other traditions. And esoteric claims are difficult to verify or falsify most of the time, because they are based on understandings of universal law, and we can't touch universal law. It's not written down somewhere. It's been expressed by many people over many different generations and eons. It's also been expressed in different ways. And some people might resonate with a particular way. Like I said, non-dualism is a good example, where other people express a more limited understanding, which is what dualism is. Neither one is wrong, but the ultimate truth is non-dualism, because, from my perspective, because essential unity is the foundation of the universe. But that doesn't mean that there isn't spirit and matter. That doesn't mean, excuse me, that those are the two primary substances that we have to work with. And finally, pardon me, we know there are crazy people, no shortage of nut jobs and parasites and manipulators out there in the new age. I'm so sorry. In the new age and esoteric, theosophical, neo-pagan world. And so a challenge for us in practicing esotericism is that so often we have to first critically look at the teacher and see if the things that they're saying make sense, or if the things that they're saying are just commercialism designed to sell their books and their tapes and their courses and their trinket shops and all of that sort of thing. So we've got that challenge as well, that not everybody, unfortunately, can be trusted. Not everybody who calls themselves an authority is an authority. And we've seen countless examples of that. So as we wrap up this course, the questions that I want to discuss on our final get together, and I hope that many of you will try to be there live for that. That will be 2 weeks from the night that this course is uploaded. So it's 2 weeks from November 28th. And if you're watching this on replay, of course, you won't have the opportunity to be there live, but you'll be able to watch the discussion. But we're going to talk about the future of esotericism. What does it mean for you? Because you're taking this course, you've invested your time, you've invested your money, you've invested your your intelligence, your energy into taking these courses. And what reason do you have to take the second half of this course, or a future course, or one of the courses that are coming up in the new year? Well, esoteric traditions are likely to continue to evolve and adapt to the cultural landscape, as you know, things happen in our world. We can look at, for example, during the tumultuous insurrection period in the United States under the 45th president, the emergence within the metaphysical and esoteric community of communities who were doing workings, who were doing spell work, who were doing visualizations and spiritual mind treatments to end that reign of terror, you know, showed up during the pandemic. Groups, communities of metaphysical and esoteric practitioners came together to send healing energy to the world. And so esoteric traditions are going to evolve and adapt, because that is the heart of esotericism. So you have the potential in your world, in your life, to help write the future story of what esotericism becomes in your experience. What might that look like? That's what we want to talk about next week, or in 2 weeks. What would you hope to be able to contribute to the cosmos through your spiritual practice? What is the why? What is the thing, the factor, the idea, the inspiration that drives you to continue on your path? And so I want to talk about that next week. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about having a little bit cleaner way of presenting this information to you. I'm hoping to hear from you about that as well. I think this actually works out a lot better without having all of the little tiles of the folks who come in on the screen, and having the distractions of, oh, only 3 people came tonight, or only 5 people came tonight, or, oh, wow, 20 people came tonight. Like, all of those distractions take you away from what you should be focusing on. And so as we move forward, there will also be some repackaging or reproduction of the original course material. So we will constantly be updating this course material. It's one of the reasons for having a platform rather than just doing a webinar series, for example, or a YouTube subscriber group, or what's it called, Patreon. So these things will continue to evolve. You'll have access to new presentations, and every time I do a presentation, because I don't work from a script, you're getting a different presentation. You're getting a different perspective. You're getting a perspective from that moment, because my spiritual practice is something that continues on a daily basis. And in that continuation, in that process of dynamically living a magical life, my awareness shifts and changes and deepens, and you know, some of the things that dawn on me become stuff that I share with all of you, because those who taught me, you know, shared generously and unconditionally. They didn't hold back. And so I feel it's incumbent on me to do the same thing for you. And then it will become incumbent on you to decide what you do with this information. See, there's no rule that says you have to go out and teach your kids or your grandkids or anyone else about this. But I would hope that we've inspired you to practice for yourself, to practice, whether that's to help contribute to healing in the world or something else. So that's what we're going to talk about when we wrap up, how we can make a better world. These traditions continue to offer insights that enrich our understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and our relationship to one another and to universal law. So please share in the comments how the course, if you would, has helped you, how preceding courses may have helped you or helped shape your understanding and mastery of esotericism. And then when we get together for our last course, we'll celebrate the end of part one, and we will talk about what's coming in part two. So thanks very much, everybody. I tried to keep this brief. Sorry if I went a little bit longer than I normally do on these solo videos, but I think it was important information, and hopefully you derived some value from it as well. Have a great one.